Alright, now the story of Alice Madness Returns takes place 11 years after the original story, and in this one, Alice is still insane, just like in the first one. And of course, she was insane because she witnessed pretty much the death of her family in a freak fire accident in her home, and she keeps blaming herself. And this one, it's no different. She keeps blaming herself, and she's clinically insane. And she's getting somewhat better because she goes back to Wonderland, of course, her freaking made-up mind dream thing, and of course, everything is screwed up, and she has to go and figure out how to fix it and how to pretty much set herself free and make everything better in her life and pretty much get her to forget about everything that happened. And that's really the story of Alice Madness Returns. I'm not going to explain it all that much. I'm going to say it right here. The story is good because, it's set in Wonderland, and there's a lot of stuff in Wonderland that looks really cool, and it's just really, really interesting. The thing is, the story itself, the structure and all that, not that great. There's not many interesting characters. I would say Alice is probably the only interesting character. So, really, story's okay. I'm just going to say it. It's okay. Let's go on to the sound. Okay, now the sound in this game. I really like the sound in this game. I'm going to say it right there. I did really like the sound. There is a few things here and there that I didn't really care for, though. Mostly in the sound design, because there is some sound glitches here and there. Sometimes you don't hear what you're supposed to, and most of it does sound pretty bland, what you'd expect. But I will say this. The soundtrack is really, really memorable in this game. And it's so memorable, when you buy this game, they actually give you 9 songs from the soundtrack. They're like, you know what, we're so proud of the soundtrack. Here's 9 songs. Maybe it's just the 9 best songs on the soundtrack. Everything else is crappy. But when you buy this game, you'll get 9 songs from the soundtrack. They're that happy with the soundtrack. They'll actually give you like half of it. So anyway, the soundtrack is really good, and the voice acting is actually really good. I really like the voice actress that played Alice. I'm not sure if it's the same girl that voiced her in the original game, but I liked her, and everybody else did a great job. So overall, sound I really liked. I thought it was great. There you go. I'll say it. I thought it was great. Let's go on to the graphics. Okay, now the graphics in Alice Madness Returns. I will say this, okay? The graphics themselves are not that great. They're actually pretty dated looking. There's some textures that are very bland looking, very muddy looking, and doesn't look that great. It really doesn't. Some of the character models are horrendous. It really is. Some of them are just bad. Mostly just, side characters in the London streets, really, when you're in London and not in Wonderland. Everything else actually looks really good, but some of the character models do look pretty bad. But besides that, the art design in this game is absolutely amazing. It really is. Besides maybe some of the character models, everything else in the art design is absolutely fantastic and just crazy as hell to look at. Really, whenever you get in Wonderland and see some of this stuff, it's really like, what the hell am I looking at? Some of this stuff is just loony, batshit nuts. It really is, and I love it. I really do. Because of the art design, it really does save the graphics. Everything else, not that great. Some of the effects are really cool to look at, and some of the enemies, I would say, some of their character models look really, really cool. But besides that, the graphics themselves are, decent. But because of the art design, it really brings it up to really good. I really like the graphics because of the art design. So there you go, there's the graphics. I really like them because of that art design. It's great. Let's go on to the gameplay. Alright, now the gameplay in Alice Madness Returns is your obvious action platforming kind of game with a lot of collecting in the game also. The platforming in the game is your obvious platformer, really. It is, you press A to jump, double A to double jump, and you can glide by holding A, and you could dash forward with the RB button. And of course, that's all on Xbox. And it works really, really well. I actually really like the platforming. It does get somewhat repetitive sometimes, but that's obvious platforming. Luckily, you also have the combat in the game, which comes in pretty much right when it starts getting repetitive, and the combat is actually very fluid also. I really like the combat in the game. Of course, you have melee and ranged attacks, and they both work really well and give you a whole bunch of different variety of weapons. Not like a huge amount, but about seven different weapons. Some of them go boom, some of them go boom, some of them go plow plow, and some of them go slash slash. So you get the picture. It's all bloody, violent, and just action-oriented gameplay with some platforming, and it's a lot of fun. And of course, you have a whole bunch of collecting in the game. It wouldn't be a platformer or adventure game, I should say, if there wasn't stuff to collect, and there is a lot to collect in here. And the game is actually very, very long. I think it's about 12 to 13 hours, which is cool, because usual single-player games last about at tops maybe 7 to 8 hours, and it's cool that this one actually lasts much longer, but seeing that there's no multiplayer. Thank God, because if it was like a 4-hour game, that would suck, because people paying $60 for 4 hours, that's trash, it really is. And thank God this game's long. I will say right here, I actually really enjoyed Alice Madness Returns. I didn't think it was a great game. I didn't think it was as good as I hoped it was, but I actually really enjoyed it. Thought the story was it was good. The freaking art design is amazing, and the gameplay itself is good overall. So there you go. There's my review. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you and goodbye.
The face of evil in the heart of darkness. Perfect.
Let the madness begin!